Professor, can I have your name and title, please, for camera?
I'm Professor Knight.
And I mean, is it appropriate to mention where you're professor from?
Well, University of East London, except that I got sacked April the 1st last year for my activities.
Okay. Professor Knight, have you been protesting here all the way through?
Yes, I was part of the planning of this back in January, and I have been sleeping and or assembling on this space every day since May the 1st, yes.
And if you wouldn't mind, sir, can you just run us through the protest and what this particular demonstration is for?
Well, it's an action against electoral fraud. There was no choice offered to the electorate on the issues which really mattered. All three versions of the property parties, whether it's Lib Dem or Conservatives or New Labour, all supported the war in Afghanistan. All had the same view on the bankers, all thinking that we owe untold billions to the bankers. So we thought that the election was a complete fraud.
Come tomorrow.
77% of the British population that wanted out of Afghanistan should be allowed a voice. And so we set up Democracy Village to give voice to all those people, and especially soldiers who know that there's an unwinnable war and actually a criminal war, and they shouldn't be there. So we set this up to counter electoral fraud, put it that way.
So, Professor, sir, how many people began the protest at Democracy Village, and how many are there now, or just leaving now?
Well, first of all, it's not a protest really, it's more of an action. We set this up to actively constitute an alternative form of parliament and democracy to that outfit over the road. But it's been going since May the 1st. We had a very big carnival on May Day, maybe 1,000 or so, and it's been roughly the same number of people throughout. The constitution, the composition has changed a bit. I mean, it's quite true, in the last 6 weeks or so, Democracy Village has been joined by the homeless, many of the homeless people who have been around in this area all along, but who perhaps weren't so visible. So some homeless people have found it more safe, more secure, more of a community here, but it doesn't mean they're not activists. So many homeless people are ex-military and totally support what we're doing here. And so the composition has changed. Of course, with the homelessness has come, issues. Of course, some of them have alcohol issues and so on. So the composition has changed. But I would say, if anything, the Democracy Village has grown in the last week or so.
But did the message get mottled as a result?
It became a bigger message. It became a message that embraced homelessness and also embraced the fact that so many of the soldiers who go to these countries because they're told to, and it's the only job they've got, the reward they get for their sacrifice when they come back with, say, a leg missing or trauma is to be thrown onto the streets. So it's become a broader message than just the message of the war, yes. Homelessness is a real issue. It shouldn't be us that's attempts to cope with it. It should be Westminster City Council. Nobody can possibly believe for a moment that evicting us and sending these homeless people back to where they were before is any kind of solution. They might be less visible, but they'll still be homeless, and the problem remains.
Professor, sir, I've noticed from my own, wandering around the last few hours, the bailiffs have been a little bit heavy-handed. Have you experienced any physical abuse or undue heavy-handedness from the bailiffs?
Well, they have been. They're obviously not very experienced. They're obviously people picked up off the streets. Obviously, people offered £100 for 3 or 4 hours work. They're obviously not trained. They don't really know what they're doing. But I'm not going to say that extreme violence has been used. I mean, bailiffs are usually, their job is to use physical force. Our job is not. So we've not helped them. We've forced them to carry us off. I've been carried off this place. I don't want to claim myself that excessive violence was used. I won't make that claim. But I have seen very incompetent, rough handling of some of the people here this evening.
Last question, sir. Where are you going to take your action to now that you've been moved off Parliament Square?
Well, I just want to say, firstly, I agree with all those people who think we shouldn't be here. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have to be here. If this was a democracy, the politicians across the road would be reflecting the fact that 70% of the British people want us out of Afghanistan. Now, the bailiffs can remove us from this place, but it doesn't solve the problem. there's still soldiers, many soldiers, dying in Afghanistan in an unwinnable war. Yesterday, in 24 hours, 4 soldiers died in separate incidents. That's an unwinnable war. It's not going away. We want the soldiers back home alive. We also want people in Afghanistan not to be afflicted with these problems. Foreigners turning up in their country and supposedly introducing democracy at the barrel of various guns and bombs and helicopter gunships and so on. So what we do now is, of course, we go up a level. I mean, we've got a lot of, we've sent out a very powerful signal. I'm so proud of everything that's been done since we came here on May the 1st. We've sent out a signal. The politicians should have been doing that job. They weren't. We've done it. We've flagged up the issue of the war in Afghanistan as nobody else has done. So clearly that's going to continue. Exactly where we do it, we're not going to tell you. We need to. There's no point in us being too explicit about exactly what we do and where we do it from now on. But make no mistake, we're not going anywhere.
Well, Professor, you know, the British troops are pulling out of Sangin, and the Foreign Secretary today did release an exit strategy per se. One can't leave immediately, otherwise there's a power vacuum.
Can I just say, they're pulling out of Sangin for a very good reason. They lack sufficient equipment and numbers, and the reason for that is they're in somebody else's country. They've lost the war in Sangin. They've pulled back to much safer areas. Now, if you just think about what's happening, the politicians, Cameron, Clegg, and Sir David Richards, the new general in charge of the armed forces, they're saying they urgently need negotiations with the Taliban. Now, they haven't beaten the Taliban, and they're now demanding negotiations. What that means is they're going to hand over to the Taliban, and instead of being honest about it, they're asking for time, 2 or 3 or 4 years, to rebrand the Taliban, to rebrand them, give them another name, call them the Southern Alliance or something. So do you see why they're doing that? They're doing that to save their faces, to make a defeat look like a victory. Soldiers are dying. Why are they dying? To save the faces of some crooked politicians. Is that a good reason to be out there? No. Come home alive now. And I would say to the soldiers, a direct message, come home. You shouldn't be out there. Come home alive, not in a coffin.
Professor, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.